Hello, my crafty friend, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's very special treasure journal flip through video. So the beauty that I have in front of you here has one of my all-time favorite cover designs because I made this like 3D crystal flower thing out of natural gemstones, real crystals, and it just came out looking so like exactly what I was going for. Whoops, I'll have to re-glue this little buddy. Sorry, Irene. This beautiful book, so the customer I'm making it for, or made it for, is the lovely Irene, and she's got a channel where she shares her crafty stuff as well, so I'll put a link to that in the video description so that when you see it, you can see what she makes. But anyway, the idea for this book came when I made a journal called Lapis and Lace. And it was kind of like a lapis lazuli inspired blue plus vintage lacy journal. And she challenged me to make a large version of that, but with the theme being carnelian and lace. And so instead of having something centered around lapis lazuli, it's centered around carnelian. So the very center of this crystal flower that I will re-glue, I've got some really good jeweler's glue now. I'm just going to set this aside. I'll glue that in with some E3000 stuff, so that'll fix right up. But anyway, yeah, so the challenge was to make a journal using the color orange predominantly, but other colors as well to represent the chakras. And I think it's come out quite beautifully. So the cover, oh, and the spine is really cool. It's my very favorite orange velvet sari trim. So yeah, that way, whether she chooses to display it with the bow side facing out or with the spine facing out or laying flat down, it's a little bit gator mouth, but not too badly. I meant for the book to be beautiful from every angle. So yeah, the center focal point on the cover is made with a really cool kind of interactive tactile sort of wire flower that I found in a mountain thrift store. And I surrounded it with Lemurian seed quartz crystals, amethyst, natural amethyst, malachite, and chrome diopside for the heart, as well as rose quartz for love, and some blue apatite for communication. And then of course the center, the most important part, will be once again this little carnelian bead that's like the heart of the whole design. Because of her love for Vedic tradition, which is a love I share, I added a Lakshmi as well as a Ganesha to the cover to draw wealth and generosity and abundance, and also to remove all obstacles. The bottom has some really cool dangly action, but sadly that's going to be cut off. But yeah, the closure is this fabric ribbon. I've adorned it with a really chunky paste brooch that was missing a few stones, but I glued the missing stones in, or sorry, I replaced the missing stones with some natural citrine. So there we go. Here's the front cover. So I used something that I know Irene is going to adore. It's this fabric that was sent to me as a gift from May in Saudi Arabia. Hello, May. And as soon as Irene saw that in a video that I made about my happy mail from May, she said that would be perfect in the journal I'm ordering. So I cut it into quarters, and I used 1/4, a big piece, but I think it's worth it, worth putting it into this book. So yeah, I didn't glue anything else on top of it because it's such a beautiful fabric. I wanted it to be just as it is. And so this is like a fabric cover, a cover within a cover that has a removable little flower doily. When you lift that up, you see a dragon that's embroidered right into the fabric. Not embroidered, woven, I should say. When this flips over, There's a witchy little envelope that she can use to write in if she chooses to, or she could leave it plain. And I put a print of a really cool stamp that shows one of the Carnatic dancers dancing katakali next to a Japanese dancer dancing the kabuki. And it's kind of cool to see the costumes and the masks from two vastly faraway countries as India and Japan. But the masks are very, very similar. And it's just neat to compare and contrast. I thought she'd get a kick out of that. She requested vintage things, antique things. This is one of my favorite pieces of wallpaper of all time. That's the original from 1928. It's called Leaf Gold, and this was a high-end wallpaper back in the day. That was 30 cents a roll, whereas some of my wallpaper samples were 7 cents a roll. So this was luxury in the late 1920s. And I thought Irene would love it because she told me that she feels a connection to the dot art of the Aborigine people. And I've always resonated with that too. In Australia, the mystic tradition among the Aborigines is to go into dream time, and they'll record what they've seen in their visions using a technique very similar to pointillism. So when I found that there was a wallpaper piece that had some orange in it, which I know is her favorite color, when I realized it also had those dots, I thought this is like a Dreamtime representation. And here we go. When we take all those layers away, we have a beautiful paper doll by the one and only Cat Stone. She printed it, and she also added the original dots and some of the highlighting in the hair, the gilding, the little seed pearls. All I did was fussy cut this and ink the back edges to turn it into a journal card. But yeah, I created a little frame using some orange fabric that actually acts as a curtain. So Irene can puff that up or slim it down however she prefers. But yeah, there's a couple best friends hanging out back here. I love this doll. She reminds me of Stevie Nicks. And I love the way she's holding her fans. So anyway, that's the beginning of our journal here. This is less a journal and more an art book because it was created not so much for use in recording and journaling, but more as a collectible keepsake or a display piece or a work of art. But even still, because I love paper and texture and the looks of layered papers, I've left some space that could be journaled into if she ever chooses to. Sorry, this page right here is a genuine page from a book about Kuan Yin from the late Edo period in Japan. And then this here is a collection of all the prints of Kuan Yin that were in that book that I printed on. See the texture in the paper? It's like a linen textured cream colored paper. And I just love it because it gives texture and dimension to the prints. So this is from a printable kit in my Etsy shop called Kuan Yin Mini Booklet. All I did was print it out, cut it out, fold the pages, and then staple bind them. And that's not a real piece of Moldavite, but that is a little Moldavite cutout that I stuck on with some washi tape that can be easily taken off. And this is just a pretty little collage I did to add some visual interest to this orange piece of handmade, hand-dyed paper. Not made or dyed by me, but handmade and hand-dyed by an artisan. And then this is a stunning print of a red-headed lady by Cat Stone. And I felt to bring balance, since we've got a blonde and a brunette behind the curtains here, I felt like it was nice to bring in a redhead wearing some faux fur. Always faux in Cat's art. And in mine too, for that matter. We share that vegan vibe. So this is a fold out of one of those cool receipts from Angelica. It's from 1950 from Austria, and it just has the coolest crinkly texture and original signature, done in pencil crayon, but it's a blue pencil crayon, so it's passable for pen. Isn't that something that you would have done in junior high? Like, sign something with a blue pencil crayon and hope the teacher doesn't notice. Anyway, that's just on an old piece of of sheet music paper. And on the other side, an old, one of those things that came in a lapidary journal that you could send this to get a bunch of books, I think. Yeah, the rug book. That would be a cool book to get. Obviously not usable anymore, but it was close enough to orange that I thought Irene might get a kick out of it, since orange is her favorite. It's funny, I did a journal for Jason Adams that I just felt compelled to make as a gift for him. And another journal for Tanya. Actually, I made her a mini journal and then a regular size journal. And Jason and Tanya, orange is their favorite color. And then meanwhile, I'd been working on this baby for Irene for a while now, and orange is her favorite color. So at the end of this project, if I don't touch orange for a while, it's because I did 3 custom journals in a row, all for people whose favorite color is orange. And so I'll be ready for a little break. I'll be in the cool colors after being so much in the warm colors. Anyway, this little cute cutout of kids raiding the dessert pantry came out of a scrapbook from the 1800s, Victorian scrapbook. So yeah, there are a lot of original old papers here, like 1950s, 1930s, late Edo period, which coincides with the Victorian era, so probably 1880s for that one, 1870s to 80s for this one. This is a Canada Post aerogram. Oh, and this is the letter I from an old ledger that I bought at a local antique shop. So I have the S in my personal journal, K is in my Kenley's journal. I sent the M to May in Saudi Arabia. The C is in Kat Stone's journal. And the I goes to Irene. So obviously I only have one of each letter, but when I get a custom order, if I have somebody's initial, I like to put it in. So yeah, this is an aerogram from Canada Post. Very, very old. Very pretty, if you ask me. And it represents my home province, the flower of Alberta, the wild rose. And I actually have some of these growing in my garden right now. My Kenley planted them. And he's the gardener among us, so that's cool. I get to enjoy them, and he does all the hard work. This really cool page I found at a local thrift shop. And it's really cool because it's watermarked with all these different stunning Japanese motifs. And I think it's like a calligraphy paper, but I could never bring myself to write on it because, as you can see, it unfolds pretty long. And each one is different, so it's really cool. It's really delicate, and now that I've unfolded the whole thing, I'm already regretting it because I have to fold it all back again. There we go. So Irene, open it with care. It's like one of those maps that once you open it, it can be a little bit tough to fold back into place. But that I clipped on using a single earring that I found in Waterton Lakes National Park, of all places. That was at a dress shop. Another crystal that I've cut out and then taped in so that can be moved around and played with. And then what I stuck to the other side is just a beautiful page out of a book about stained glass. Just to keep that page pretty too. The other side of this coffee dyed paper from May. I tried to put lots of sari trim tabs on the edges of the pages so that it would be filled with texture. Here's a really cool page from an art history book. Egyptian royalty. Egyptian divinity. A cool vintage postcard that I bought in Fort Macleod, Alberta. Birthplace of Joni Mitchell. And I'll always have a special place in my heart now that I'm friends with Kat Stone for anything that I buy in Fort Macleod. This is on some old scrapbooking paper. And on the other side, I put another vintage postcard from that same collection. I glued this over top of a page that was from another art history book just because I liked this. I felt that Irene would love this. The sunrise reflected on the water, seen from above. There's something just mystical and beautiful about it, and it fits her color palette so perfectly. The other side shows spiral jetty. Every art student has had to learn about that thing. A gorgeous piece by Kat Stone. I think she titled this one Beloved, and I glued it down as a pocket, inside which I put this really cool postcard from a local antique shop that shows, a bronze from China. I'm sure this is a very ancient bronze. Really cool looking. And then I stuffed this pocket that shows a view of Versailles with just some cool pages out of a book on how to draw portraits and a page out of an a vintage map book. And then this just flips up to show the music on the page. On the other side, I made a large full page pocket out of some more vintage wallpaper. Laid that on some khadi paper from India. I think it creates a really cool effect. And then I just stuffed that with pages out of an encyclopedia of life in Japan. I really loved the chart in the background of that page. It's just such a pretty little collection of pages. And since this book is more to be a display piece, imagine leaving this open on your coffee table so your guests can come in and, pull some pages out to read them, peruse this, peruse that, maybe use it the way my cousin Amy uses her junk journal. She keeps it in her living room, and when guests come over, she asks them, pick a page and sign it. Write a little message. I like that idea. If I had a lot of house guests, I would totally make myself. Should I have had it? I should have had it this way the whole time. Well, now it is. Anyway, these are pages about mysticism in India that I thought she'd enjoy reading. This lady in particular, I forget the name of her tribe, but one of the YouTubers I love, Decorative of Earth, did a really cool video showcasing that community, and they get the verse Ram Nam Satya Hai, which means the name of Ram is truth, and that truth is liberation. Very roughly translated, don't quote me on that, but as I remember the Sanskrit Ram Nam Satya Hai, it's that when the name of Ram is on me, I'm divine. And so that caste of people is considered untouchable because they do the manual labor work that's actually a huge service to society that others don't want to do. But people mistakenly take it that if somebody else does work you wouldn't want to touch that person. And so the untouchable caste in India is not welcome in temples in certain places. And so that particular band takes to having the sacred verse tattooed on their faces, and not just on their faces, but it covers their entire body, some of them. See how she has it woven into her cloth too, that's wrapped around her? And so it's kind of a way of thumbing your nose at the temple authorities. Like, it's so badass and it's so beautiful, and I love it so much how they do this. Because, you won't let us into your temple? Well, then we will become temples. So personally, I think you can encounter more of the Lord Rama in the people banned from his temple who tattoo his name on their entire bodies. But that's just me. Really cool anyway. This is some paper hand painted by May in Saudi Arabia. And then pages about the step pyramid in India. Also the Great Pyramid, some architectural breakdowns. I just thought that looked cool. An ancient market scene on some really pretty paper that Kat Stone sent me. In this pocket, I made a printed set of planets, sort of astrological cards. So we have Neptune. They're more just to look at than to read or to play with. But I thought she would appreciate the graphics on these because I think they look so cool too. And the backs of the cards are prints from my own printable kit. The kit that's about the magic carpet, the Arabian Nights set. Sorry, and then Moonstone and Sunstone at the end, just because they're cool to have. So anyway, those go in that pocket. Some really beautiful Zen garden writing. A Japanese tea ceremony. Since there's so much Egyptian stuff, I just had to add a scarab charm. Beautiful star ceiling on a more modern temple. Had to add some of my Kitsungi vases. And these are just glued down on the pages. Love the Indian handicrafts. Love this little print. Just journaling cards. Here's a page out of a lapidary or lapidary. I still don't know how to say that word. But it's about setting gemstones and rings. And I thought that was kind of cool. There's a print of a stamp of Ganesha from Nepal. A set of origami envelopes. I left these empty so she can use them in her own craft if she wants to and stick other things into these little pockets, or she can keep them. I think they're kind of sweet. No glue, just held together with folding. There's a page of a book of Versailles. An Egyptian scene of the gods. This is a calligraphy practice sheet from the late Edo period. So whereas the other Japanese paper in here was printed, this is actually handwritten by someone with a brush pen. Pardon me if it's upside down. I think it's upside down. That's my bad. Still beautiful to look at though, isn't it? Lots of art history pages in this book. And then some full-size prints, the alchemical table of symbols and the alchemical and astrological table of symbols. The backs of these are just the strips that I think are so gorgeous from my own printable kit. Same as last time, the Magic Carpet Digi Kit. Just some pretty orange flowers on that page. Heavenly music. A page out of an instruction book on using a typewriter. I tied some prayer beads into the center of the book just so that she's always got a mala handy when she wants one. Then the centerfold here is a 1970s. It's so huge. I wish I could fit this in camera, but it's so beautiful. This is my last one, by the way, Irene. That's how much I love you and your book, and just how grateful I am that you ordered this from me, is that I'm sending you my very last Ganesha astrology blank. So this you can actually take to a Vedic astrologer and have all the information written into it about your chart. And I backed it with some heavy wallpaper with stars on it just because it's such fragile paper. It was crumbling and falling apart. So that way it keeps it intact. And then the beads are natural gemstones. We have petrified coral. Oops, sorry, I'm off camera. Petrified coral, amber, and then these really cool ones. I think they might be like the greenish colored aquamarine, but they're like a yellowy, greeny, orangey color. They might even just be some kind of agate. Really pretty though. and then a ceramic bead in shades of orange with a vintage bell. These were all treasures from the lovely Tanya, whose channel is called My Jewelry Addiction. And when I saw this orange bead, I knew it was going to go from the collection of one orange lover to another. Made a pocket out of a geode. A few more crystal prints. This might just be my favorite page in the whole journal, just because I love the way it looks to have a stack of stunning crystals. In here I just put a fun page from a book about calligraphy, brush strokes. On the other side are some art history pages. The Bay of Bengal, really cool. I love this scene. That's Haridwar, I think. The location of one of the Kumbh Melas. She's from Australia, so there she is. Going a little bit faster now at the second half of the book because there's just more pages. Oh, I will, however, add this now. This is another little charm I made for her out of a vintage bead, vintage glass bead, really pretty, dangling from a more modern enameled flower, but I'll stick that right onto here. So now that'll hang out the book. There's some Aboriginal art. Really cool. See what I mean about the dots almost being similar to pointillism? But much more beautiful and masterful, the way the Aborigines do it. Just love that. More Khadi handmade paper, making these pockets. Some cool fabric from Tanya making this pocket. And this, oh, look at this stunning fabric sample right here. This was in my latest Happy Mail from May in Saudi Arabia. And I just had to cut off a piece to share with Irene. Irene has had her own Happy Mail from me, so she knows how good this smells already. I just had to include a piece. Isn't it gorgeous? So gorgeous. Expect to see more of that in my own personal journal. Egyptian stuff. This right here, tucked into this orange tuck spot. It's loose, but it's crumbly, so I'm not going to pull it out on camera. That's a piece of actual papyrus that my grandparents brought back to me for me as a souvenir from their trip to Egypt many moons ago. So not only is that genuine papyrus, but it's papyrus made in and purchased in Egypt. This is something that I think you expect to see in my journals now. So there's a cool textile sample card showing some of my favorites. A lot of these that have been used in this book, some that haven't. On a 1960s ledger paper. That stunning paper from May. Here's another stunning portrait made by Kat Stone. And I made a border for her using some book pages and some white linen fabric, some dotted fabric, some vintage wallpaper. Gorgeous, oops, music page, gorgeous South Indian princess. Om, the sacred syllable. And finally, last but not least, the end page is a fabric flip that kind of just gives it a more vintage look, where I've stashed another really cool picture of the pyramids and a full entire deck of printed crystal cards. So just to show you a few, we might as well end this video with a little crystal card reading. I'll pull 3 cards and we'll take those as a message for all of us. Okay, well, this one that jumped out, Morganite. You attract heart chakra balancing and harmony in all of your relationships with the healing power of love. That's a beautiful message, isn't it? There's one. Let's ask for two more. I'm going for this one that's standing up here. Ruby. Obstacles clear from your path to rejuvenate your passion and zest for life. That's another great message for us, isn't it? These are especially, I think, messages for Irene because it's her book, but we'll take them too. Oh, I'm thinking this one, the bottom of the two. Pre-night, and I saw that one come up when I shuffled through earlier too. Pay close attention to your dreams as you will be guided to access your higher self and divine intuition. How beautiful. So there we have it. I'll shuffle those back in so that they're not right on top when Irene gets this. But yeah, this is my latest. I've been working on it for a while, but my latest journal completed. And she's going to be traveling all the way to Australia to live in her new home. And yeah, I hope Irene loves this book as much as I've loved working on it. So thank you for watching. Let me know how you feel about it. I'm going to stick a few of these randomly in the pages. I've been waiting for them to dry. And that will be the completion of this book. I'm just going to get that little bug away from it because I don't want to accidentally send a bug to Australia. I've watched The Simpsons as a kid. I know that terrible things could come of that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. So much love to you. Bye for now.